Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to model Deadpool this week. So I have my photo of Deadpool here and we're going to start with the head. This actually won't be as difficult as you guys might think. And of course, as we're doing the shapes, we're going to make them Lambert. So first we're going to start with the head and we're going to go into our transparency mode. Oh, and as always, we're going to duplicate these to make it brighter. So let's start with the head. It isn't as difficult as it looks. The key thing is that, like with Deadpool, his head does have a sizable amount, but a sphere probably does some good, and once we get to, high polying the model, we're probably going to move this in a bit. Or better yet, instead of using that, we'll actually use a cylinder. Cylinders are actually a lot better for what we're doing right now. So if we get our cylinder, move it up, and since this head is on an angle, all we gotta really do is tilt it. Shrink it down a bit to match head size. And we have Deadpool's head. We're actually gonna make it a little taller, but that really is Deadpool's head. What's really left in this model is probably the eyes. That isn't actually as hard as it looks. What we really need are just like two extremely tiny circles. So let's get some circles. Bring them up. What we want is it for this eyes to not go like in too deep into the model. We want it to stick out. So the way we're going to do that is look at it from this side and line it up. It's on a squint, which we will do later on. And there we have the begin model. If you're looking at this right now and thinking that it doesn't look so great, it'll look better. I've always said that every video. It'll always look a lot better than it looks. Next, we're going to take a cylinder and shrink it down for his neck. The issue I'm not using a circle or anything else is really just because his neck is a lot thicker, so I'm using this. So we have that. Next is his body. To be completely honest, this part won't be as difficult as a lot of people think. It's more or less a big cube, but we're going to actually use two cubes. One for his chest area where it's connected to the arms, and the other for where his arms meet. So we're actually going to take ourselves this cube, material. Oh shoot. Stand by for a second. Let's just redo this part. Well, what happened there was it was moving some of the duplicates, so it wasn't on par with the model. So let's just go back into making that, and back to what I said before, we're going to use two cubes. What's happening? So now all we gotta do is let's get out of transparency mode for a minute and pick up our cube. And then let's go back. So now, as we always do, we're gonna assign it Lambert. And if the model will stop for a dang second for me to, for it not to always freaking fall. We pick up our cube, and what we're gonna do is more or less increase it. So let's just first put this on Lambert again. And as you can see, there is a problem. Don't worry, once we click off, it'll look just like new. Apparently, I think one of them is connected. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a problem. So really, we're just going to build off what we have here, because right now it's not an easy fix. So we're just going to go back to what we did. Get a cube. Lambert. Move it up. And we already understand the basic model idea. All we're going to just do is implement it through, a simple shape. So we're going to move this up and rotate it. Move it here. As you can see, it is underneath the neck area. So what this model is going to ask us for is we're going to just need to extend this and make this a lot taller to match that chest size. So if I have this correctly, it should be here, but it should also be a lot. This should be a lot bigger. So with this problem, I might not be able to get the model exact. So what we see here, we gotta do, this is actually not tilted, so we're just gonna re-tilt that and just align it with the rest of the model. Next step is this part. This part's not gonna be as difficult. All we gotta do is just get another cube and move it down like this. Now, if you're wondering why I'm using another cube, it's for a couple of reasons. One is when we do the hands, we're gonna need to, have an extra cube to build off of. So I'm using another cube for that reason. Secondly, it's actually a lot better to use another cube. As we did in the last episode with Donald Duck, it's more or less the same. We're gonna use cubes for the arms to make the fingers, and more or less cylinders for the shoulders and forearm. So let's just, since we have, these, let's get these out of the way. Shrink them down. And move them down here. I'm not really going to do the full, size of it. I'm going to increase it a tiny bit. This is just to fit, like, how Deadpool's hands look. It's connected to his arm. The belt buckle we'll insert later. Let's get another one of these and move them here. Next is this. And since we already have most of our basic shapes, all we really have to do is get another one of these and what we need to do is kind of just move this to where we need it to be. So we're just gonna, as you can see, we have that cube. We need it to connect to the arm. So what we're gonna do is, since we don't really need that photo, we're just gonna do what's shown. Move his arm right about there. We'll move his arm there, but we'll actually shrink down how big it is because it's actually pretty dang big. Shrink it down, but make it a lot longer to fit that forearm that he has in his shoulder. If we click off here, it should look fine, but maybe a couple of adjustments would be, maybe move that out a bit. Then let's just duplicate it again and just make another one. And all we really have to do here is it's basically the same idea, same size, same everything. If you're noticing I'm not going for shoulder first, we're going to get the basic shapes out of Deadpool. And then for the next part of the video, we're just kind of going to take that part. Let's take another cylinder for his other arm. This one is a little inverted. So what we're going to do is just change the angle. So we're going to take our shape, our tool here. Move this here. And just make another one. And do the same thing we just did. And rotate it here. We now pretty much have a basic top part of Deadpool. I picked this photo out of Pinterest. If you guys want to wonder where I got this photo. So what we're really gonna do, considering he doesn't really have feet here, we're just gonna go straight to his belt buckle, and that should really be what we need to close out the video. Let's start with his, belt buckles, pieces. So we're gonna bring this down here, and as you can see, it's kind of hard to understand because the photo is doing something. But what we're really gonna do is shrink it pretty sizely. We're gonna do this one first. Move this up here and shrink it again to match, what we're looking for in that photo. A small pocket. And then we have this. So that cube is located here. So what we want for this model is to move it close to his hand. We're going to overlay these later on. Let's actually get the circles for this part. So we're going to pick these and move them down. This is going to be for, as you can see in the model, it's for Deadpool's belt. As you can see, his face is on it. So what we're going to do is move it into like the middle so that it matches his chest area. I'm actually going to make it sizably bigger to match, the idea. A couple of final adjustments would be more considerable. I think we're missing a cube. I don't know how, but I think we're missing. So before we do that, we're actually going to move these down. Something must be up because we don't have the correct look at the model. If we look at it here, you can see there's something. Oh, here's the correct photo we're going off of, so everything is aligned correctly. It's just that when we click here, there is that issue. So what I gotta do is move everything and align it. Move that there. And kind of just move this here. There's not a lot to really fulfill in this model. More or less, we're just trying to fit sizes now. Next, we're going to take this and do this pocket that's a lot bigger underneath here. And all we got to do is just make this taller. That's really the difference. Now we pretty much have the main components of this belt buckle. The only part we're probably missing is that buckle part that connects the pocket. It's not really that hard to do. All we really need to do is take a cube, rotate it onto its side, and shrink it. Not like shrink it like this, make it thinner like this, and maybe a little bit taller to attach. And we have the belt buckle. Now comes a tricky part, which is probably going to be the back part. As you can probably tell, Deadpool has like this big part here. There's not really, you can do a lot to that model piece. What you can really do is just use a cube, and then we can do a couple of details there. But overall, this should be the end of the model. This is a lot shorter model just due to how it's actually a lot smaller than most other models. Might not seem like it, but it's actually very small. A couple of reasons could be that although it's a lot bigger in size, the shapes are a lot easier to get and the properties are not as difficult. And purely off the fact that it's not a tough model to do. So when we get to, the high poly, that's where the tough parts come in, and it will actually be a lot more difficult. So right now we basically have the basic shapes of Deadpool. It might not seem like Deadpool, but once we go back in, do a couple of high polys, and we can actually do one more thing here. It might not seem important, but if we want to get that round part, we can take this circle and basically increase it and rotate it and then just stick it in his head. Once we get to, the rest of the model, we're actually going to cut half of that and make it, different. So we're just going to rotate it like this. And we're going to make it stretched a bit to match, the idea of his head. It's a little cartoonish in some ways. And once we have it nestled in, we can increase it like that. There you have it, folks. We have a basic model Deadpool. Next video, we're going to, go back, kind of understand it more in 3D, And that should be next week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and bye.